Sure. Let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining PyCon India 2021 presenting PyFlames. It's a Python mega meetup supported by different local chapters of Python India community. Under Python India community, we have Bangpypers, ChennaiPy, Pydelhi, PyLadies India, and PythonPune, Hyderabad Py, PyJaipur. Thank you everyone for supporting this event. Before moving ahead, I wanted to talk about something which like everybody got hit by that. So currently we are in the second phase of COVID-19 pandemic. It is a very difficult time. Everybody got affected by this. Everybody has lost someone in our circle. The Python India community share our sincere condolences to all the people who have lost their lives, as well as those brave souls fighting this battle currently. We are considerate about the current situation and we empathize with each of these who are going through this tough time. I'd like to quote few lines from a song from Peter Sager, like we shall overcome this someday deep in our hearts. We shall overcome. Anyone who wants to talk or say their feelings, PyCon India team is always there. God forward to bring us any of the team members. We would love to help you. Thank you. Moving with the next slide, slides. Uh, let me talk a little bit about PyCon India 2021. So this is the 13th edition of PyCon India, which is happening online from September 17th to September 20th. The workshop will be happening on 17th September. The conference days will be on 18th and 19th, and we will be hosting the test sprint on 28th. The CFP is still open. So yesterday, a few days back, we have extended the CFP deadline. So the new CFP deadline is May 2021. And we have around 12 domains in which you can submit your talks. So we still have 2 weeks left. Please go ahead and submit your favorite proposals if you are working on something interesting within the Python community or you have learned something. So we have different domains which almost cover each and every fields. So here is the link for submission. So you can go to n.python/cfp/2021/proposals. Please do go ahead and submit it. So PyCon India is a volunteer-driven event, and there are lots of tasks which needs to be completed to make the conference successful. So in order to focus on different aspects of tasks, we have a set of people handling this task, and those set of people comes under working groups, and each working groups have their leads and shadows as well as a set of volunteers. If you want to help PyCon India to make it amazing and awesome, do check out our blogs for how you can help us by clicking on the link in.python.org/blog/2021/volunteers. And coming back to today's event, PyFlames 2021. So this is our first iteration of PyFlames 2021, and we have around 8 talks, and each talks have 20-minute duration consisting of 15 minutes of talk and 5 minutes of Q&A. In the end, the PyCon India is hosting a AMA where it's related to ask me anything, where you can ask anything related to PyCon India 2021. We are happy to answer all of your questions. And last not the least, don't forget to share your favorite moment during PyFlames with following hashtags by using PyFlames hashtags or PyCon India 2021 or Python hashtags. We also have a surprise during the PyFlames, so please stay during the events. We will let you know about the surprise. And now it's time to start the event. I will pass over the mic to the test.
Yep.
Let me stop saying this.
Okay, so Hari, you
Yeah, I'm there.
okay? I think the stage is all yours. Can you please share?
Yeah, can I, how can I present the screen?
On the I think bottom of the window, you will see a share screen button.
Okay,
Let me
yeah,
check.
got it. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
So hi, today I'm here to talk on how to get started with programming. So before starting, I would like to give a brief summary of myself. I'm Sapna and I am a electronics student at College of Engineering, Trivandrum. I love programming and I am a web developer, mainly in Stack, and I like to write tech blogs on platforms like GFG and Medium. And in my free time, I like to read books and write answers on Quora. So now let's get started. Uh, when we start our programming journey, we face so many issues like we won't be able to build logic for a particular program, or the data structures and algorithms might be confusing. In some cases, we might not be able to select which data structure should we use. There might be confusion while choosing arrays or hash maps, linked list. We face this issue, and even if we write a brute force solution, we won't be able to get to the optimized solution, which leads to TLE errors. And all these problems lead to demotivation, and we feel that we should quit programming. So in this talk, I will be sharing some tips what you should follow so that you can improve your logic building skills for programming. So first, you should select a language. This is a common error which beginners make. They feel that they should learn all the language which are available in the industry, like C++, Java, etc. I remember in my second semester we had a course on C, and at the same time I was learning a Java course from YouTube. And while writing one of my assignment, I actually wrote the code of Java, C, and C++, and I wasn't able to compile it, and I was wondering what is the error in this. So these things happen in a day-to-day basis. So instead of getting confused between different syntaxes, it's better to concentrate on one language and build your concepts on that language. You should be a master of one instead of being a master of none. Second thing is that we mostly go and jump into competitive programming before studying the basic DSA. And what happens is that first few questions you will be easily able to solve because of they are really easy and only have a basic max concepts involved in it. But as the level increases, these concepts like recursion, dynamic programming becomes really important, and we won't be able to solve them without having a clear concept. So before jumping into questions, one should always cover the theory before itself. Then third important tip, this is a really important tip. What happens is that after a contest, we just if a submission get accepted, we don't look at the successful submissions. There is a pretty high chance that the code of the successful submission might be better than yours. Like I got to learn a lot of tricks like using fast reader in Java, scanf in C++ through the successful submissions. And it will help you to understand the code better if you look at the successful submissions. Then the fourth tip is be consistent. What happens is that after a few rounds of contest, we get demotivated and think of leaving programming. But one should remember that results don't come overnight. You need to be consistent and patient and not quit. When we feel that we need to quit, we should remember why did we start in the first place itself. This will help you be consistent. Then fifth point is prepare notes. What happens is that when we learn DSA, there are so many concepts which we might not be able to grasp in the first go. So writing notes will help you grab those concepts. Like for example, if you're solving a question and it involves binary binary search or the Floyd's algorithm, you can write the pseudocode of that in the notes and revise it regularly so that the concept sticks into your head and you will be able to apply the same logic in when you come across similar problems in the future. And you can also write the time complexities of different search algorithms, which will be helpful for you during the interviews. Then pair programming. It's a good way to learn programming if you uh, learn it with a partner. Like if you have any doubt, you can ask them, and if you have a healthy competition with your partner, it will help you to increase your skills more, as you, both of you will have different perspectives, and by sharing your thoughts you can learn a lot from each other. And you can also set standards for each other and uh, learn programming in that manner. Then seventh point. Generally, what happens is that when we tackle a question, uh, we want to solve it in the most optimized solution. But in most of the cases, what happens is that the optimized solution comes from the brute force solution. So it's okay if you're able to solve the question in of n raised to 4 time complexity. From that, you can reach to O of n. It doesn't matter if you are not able to get the optimized solution in the first go itself. So be patient and try to build the optimized solution from the brute force one. Yeah, coding contest. So I won't recommend beginners to jump into competitive programming because it can be really demotivating. But once you have a certain confidence in you that you are able to solve some easy medium questions, you can jump into coding contest because it will help you to think in a limited time frame. What happens when you uh, try solving questions in lead code and all is that they will give you a specific time which is and the environment will be similar to your interview situation. So this will help you increase your speed and accuracy in the long run. Then the next point, when we see a question, we just directly think about the algorithms before even understanding what the questions is. If you have seen contest question, they are pretty difficult to understand itself because of the language. So first one should understand the question properly, and before writing the code in a paper, you should try different edge cases and different uh, uh, algorithms which might be applicable for the program, and break it into pieces before writing the final code. This will help you to code faster and write an efficient code. So before writing the code, always prefer to write a code in a paper or pseudocode in a paper. It will help you during the interviews also, because in the second and third rounds on the interview, you're not given a compiler. You might have to write a code in a piece of paper, and those are mainly generally pseudocodes. So that will help you during your interviews also. Oh yeah, 10th point is solving puzzles. Coding questions are normally basic maths and puzzles. So if you solve puzzles like you might have seen Google and Amazon questions, true, like in this case, what will happen, how to balance the weight. lift questions and all. Solving these type of questions will help you increase your thinking ability, and that will definitely reflect in your logic building uh, cases in programming. And 11th point is solve the random questions daily. There are two ways of studying. One is depth search and one is breadth search. In depth search, you will understand the concepts deeply of a particular topic. In breadth search, you will cover a wide variety of questions. So it's important to keep a balance between both. Solving a random question daily will help you increase the breadth of the concepts and help you cover more concepts in a limited time frame. For this, the best way is to participate in lead code monthly challenges. In the monthly challenges daily, you will be given a question from a random topic. Like yesterday the question was on DP, and day before yesterday it was on recursion. So in a month you will cover so many concepts that it will help you to prepare for your interviews in a better way. Then revise regularly. It's not necessary that if you study a binary search today, after 1 week you might be able to recollect the concepts. So you should repeatedly revise so that you can retain the concepts. After we study a particular topic, it remains in our mind only for the first 1 hour. After that, the graph slowly starts decreasing. So with repeated revision, we'll be able to maintain a constant graph and we'll be able to recollect concepts in the future. And one more point I would like to add is that for every in on all Sundays, preferably try solving questions from a particular topic. Like this Sunday, you can try questions of arrays. This will help you to recollect the concepts and study a particular questions in depth. Then coding is important, but more important is to write a good code. Because when you go to industries, if and you don't write a code in a particular proper standards and all, your colleague might not be able to figure things out. He or she might get confused, and it will create problems in the long run. So it's really important to write good quality codes. And some practices you can follow are like maintain a tree like directory. For example, if you are doing a web development project, instead of putting all the CSS folders and HTML folders on the main folder, create subfolders like HTML, CSS, and add those folder inside that. This will help you to maintain a proper structure and will also help you to find files easily. Use comments wherever necessary. I'm not saying that you should comment every line, but in some cases where you feel that the person who might be taking your code after some days won't be able to understand, you should comment on those situations. And proper indentations, this is really important, otherwise the readability of the code will decrease, and your colleague might not be able to understand what you have written. Then use proper variable names instead of when this is the major drawback of competitive programming. For writing a code in a limited time frame, we give variables name like ij, but in industries this doesn't work. You have to give proper names and all, like you have to give card instead of a cease. So that's also really important. And next point is you have to follow case style. Like there are so many types of styles like camel case, pascal case and all. Most commonly camel cases followed. So this in a common code, everyone should follow one type of case so that the readability increases. Second point is use proper file name. Instead of giving index.css to all the files or styles.css, you should give proper names like education.css if that's a web page based on education. That will help in the to understand the code structure better. And also you should maintain a good documentation along with writing the code. so that the other person who comes after you can understand the code easily. And next point is, don't write the code again and again. Try to create sub functions and call it wherever it's necessary. For example, in React, you can create nav bar and foot bar components separately and call it wherever you need it in the page, instead of creating the nav bar and footer for all the pages. Yeah, and here are some platforms where you can practice coding questions. These are the most common platforms, but I won't recommend you to follow all of these. Just select two of them and work on it. Preferably, you can use GFG for a theory and lead code for practicing. And for a month, you can try all these platforms, because if I might be liking lead code, but it's not necessary that you also will like lead code. It depends on person to person. Just be aware of these things and explore them and choose your own platform. And then there is a high chance that you will get demotivated in this journey of programming. So whenever you feel demotivated, just remember why you had started in the first place. It might be like you want to get a good job, or you like programming, you want to solve real world problems. Just find out the reason and think about it. You will feel motivated to do programming again. And yeah, these are my links. I'll be sharing the PPT here, so you can contact me if you like. I'll I'll surely respond to your messages. Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Sapna. I think all the points you mentioned were spot on. Like that we all should take care. And after, I think being in the industry for some time, also these points needs to be like remembered. That yes, what are the good coding practices? So again, thanks for the talk. Any questions for Sapna? Okay. Okay, so you can reach out to her offline in case there are any further questions. Thank you again, Sapna, for the awesome talk.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I would like to thank the organizers. It was a great opportunity, and thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next talk, the file server, Vipin. Vipin, you are not audible. Can you check your audio settings? I think Vipin is joining again. Vipin, you there?
So hello everyone, my name is Vipin and I work at a company called Red Hat since past 2 years, I think. And I usually work on tools like Python, Jenkins, Groovy, OpenStack, OpenShift, but I love Python most because it's super easy to use. And the topic which I will be covering today is called the file server app. So it's an open source app which I developed to overcome an issue of our teams. So it's based on Python's Flask module. I'm not sure much of all of you are aware of Flask. So it's a Python module which you can use to implement some web UI kind of things. So it's kind of similar to Django. So let's get started. So for in first place, like what file server do is, so it basically provides you three features as of now. You can upload, download, or replace any files. But now you might think that we have a bunch of shell features like SCP, or we have a bunch of other tools to upload and replace file. Then why should we go for the file server? Why do we give our resources to this kind of application? So the best thing which I would like to say on this question is to that it's easy to use. You can use so it has bunch of interfaces to interact to perform all the operations. So it has a pretty good web UI interface. You can perform all the operations, all the three operations from the web UI only. So you do not need to be a master of Linux to do these kind of things. You do not need to be aware with any kind of other tools that you might use to exchange the files among your team, or among or kind of to say store the result files. Next thing is it's open source. So all the source code is available on GitHub. All of you can clone and tweak accordingly to your needs and use it. So I have tried my best to make it a kind of a generic solution. So it might fit all the cases, but I'm still working on the deployment, like the development phases. Then again, a common places for all your files. So currently the code which I have written, so it is fully dynamic. And so currently I am using only the XML and GZ kind of files to get in the server, or to download. But you guys can so it's a simple Python list. You can add any kind of extension and you will be good to go to support any kind of files. Then how you can interact. So when I say interact, it means how you can download, upload, or replace files on the file server. So this tool has a web UI. As I mentioned, it has a pretty good web UI interface. You can just do some clicks and able to upload and download or replace files. Then it has APIs. You can hit the APIs if you are an API kind of person. And what I mean by that is, if you like working with Postman and everything. Then if you are, again, if you are a CLI person, you do not want to go to web UI or API, then it has a command line interface as well. You can hit bunch of commands to upload and download files. So here you might say that we have SCP, then why we go for command line? So the reason which I would say that so how we and my team use it in production is a bunch of our automation tools do run some kind of test and create some kind of result files. So we use this tool to store all the result files or the logs which is generated by automation. So it's up to you how you use or which interface you use. Then resolving the issue of file exchanging. What I mean by this is that in my the product for which I work, we have different teams like QEs, or we can say testing engineers, developers, and support case engineers. So both, so we have people from all over the globe. Some are working from US time zones, some are working from Indian time zones, and we do face a lot of issues. Sometimes a developer needs to check some logs, and we are not able. Like when I say we are not able, I mean we are not in our working hours, or we might be not able to respond to them, and this might create some sort of delays uh, in the release cycle or something like that. So that is the major issue which we fix in our team by this tool, that whenever a developer need, he or she can go and download the files. Whenever a testing engineer runs some kind of results, they can upload the results as well. And so as we have only 15 minutes, so I will be going a bit faster on these pages. So this is how the web UI looks. Okay, I'm missing the pointer thing. Can anyone yeah, this one. So file server and the home buttons will redirect you to the page called /home. It's basically list all the products you have. So I will be showing from where these products and these timestamps coming from in the demo. In the about page, you will see the documentation in the account. So all these feature will be enabled once you are logged in. So one more key feature of this tool is that if you are a testing engineer, then only you can upload the files, or a developer can like download files. So that is something which is required for my team. But again, I said you can do some tweaks and you will be good to go with any kind of feature you want to unlock. Next, we have about page. Again, about page will be having the exact readme.md which I have on GitHub, or we can say the documentation, like how API work, how CLI works. For those kind of things will be written in the about page. Then if you are not logged in, then you will get two options for registering and login. And this is how the register page looks like. No, sorry, the upload page or the slash upload path. You can select any product version, subproduct, subcategory, or category to which you want to upload, to which you want to upload. So I will be quickly explaining from where these values come while I will be giving the demo. And this is about the register page. And for the API thing, so I'm going a bit faster because I thought I will be like giving this talk for 30 minutes, but it's 15, so I will be go quicker. But so the APIs which you have is slash API that will list you the products like we saw in the home page. It's listing product 1, 2, 3. Then we have API to download, then we have API to upload, then we have API to replace. Of course, all these API do need some kind of parameters, which I will be showing you soon in the demo again. And if you want to read more about it, you can check out the Git repo, you can check out the CLI documentation which I have written, the API documentation, and the web UI pages which I have just to show, which I just show you, or what are the other URLs which we have. And again, it's the demo time. So you can like I have mentioned the repo URL, you can check that out. So let's quickly go through the README file. So again, the description, that is a tool which is used by multiple teams, but we have two roles. One is testing engineer, one is developer, and both can log in. And so developer can only download file, QE can upload file. Now, as I say, in the current deployment, I have only put XML and GZ file, but there is a file called init.py, and there I have created a dictionary called, so dictionary is kind of a Python variable type, I would say, where I have defined the structure that I will be going in a way that we will be having product version, subproduct, category, subcategories. So we'll be showing that while I will show you the code. Then let's move to the deployment steps. So this tool can be run standalone on any host or on your workstation, or this can be run within a container if you want to run the app on some OpenShift or any kind of other tool. So in our case, we are using the containerized mechanism. Let's quickly check what are these files. So you will, if you will click on the each file, you will be redirected to the like the specific file. So for the container thing again, so let me quickly show you the content of init.py or the config dir about which I am talking. Then this script will be more relatable to you. So in the source dir, we have this init.file, and here we have this variable called config dir. So this is what defines your exact structure, or I would say how you will be using this tool, or what are the key points you have in your project. So in my project, we have, of course, in my product for which I work, we have product, we do have sub products as well. Then we do have some categories, and we do have subcategories as well. But if that's not the case in with your product, and we can say that your product only has the name, version, and the categories, or you can say just your in your case it's just the product name and versions. So it's up to you how you define it. Is very dynamic. It will automatically create the directory structure or whatever things we have in the backend for you by checking this variable values. So it's up to you how you define your product. Then another thing you may need to define is these variables. So if you do not have any subcategories, just keep this list blank. If you do not have any, so in my case, I am having 3 products. So I have to define this. So I'm using this list product, which is containing the names of products which I have. So if let's imagine you only have a single product and its versions, so you need to keep this blank. You only need to pass product 1 here. You need to keep this blank. Then again, the version could be anything. In my case, I'm using 0102. It could be .01. It could be anything according to your requirement. Then again, so I think I missed the version part while changing the code. So it's basically the sub product. If your product has multiple sub products under it, then again, this is the supported file variable. You can add anything here. If you want to support text file, you can add text here. So whatever you write here, your complete backend code will support exactly what you write here. So if you write text.txt like txt here, your complete project will be supporting .txt extensions. And then this is the result based dir path. So of course it's a kind of tool that deals with storing and removing of files. Then it definitely needs some kind of path where it can download, it can store its file, or it can create this directory structure that into which it will be uploading and downloading files. So this is the path which I am using default, or I have given default. It could be anything according to your requirements. And I think that's all you need to know about this file. And even this is all you need to know about the coding part if you want to use this app. Let's quickly check out the deployment file now. So I'm installing Podman and Python 3 as that's the requirement to deploy the tool. Again, I'm creating the entry point because that is what I'm using into the init file. Then again, I'm changing the permission because I don't want any kind of mess to be get. Then again, I'm cloning the repo, getting into the repo, moving the database file. So another good thing is that we are not using any kind of database for storing the names for storing the names and anything of the files. We will be using the database only for storing the username, password, and their email addresses. Again, I'm building a container image and I'm running it. If you already have a directory on your system to which you want to mount to that container, you can use this. But for the demo purpose, I will be deploying it on my host right now. So I will be using these steps. So I have already installed Git, Python 3, and Python 3 pip. I have already a virtual environment in my system where I have installed all the dependent packages. So I will be just creating the entry point for the tool. And make sure it has everything. So can you quickly remind me that how much time do I have?
Yeah, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, that's enough. I think I can complete the demo. Okay, so again, I'm moving the database file into the entry point because that is where we have all the config and everything for the tool. I'm installing the requirement, and all you need to do is hit the run.py command, and you will be good to go. So I have like initiated the Postman for the API demos. So I have everything ready, right? I have this empty folder here, and I'm just hitting the command, and we are good to go. Now, if you check this this path or the entry point, I would say, you can see that whatever I have passed into that directory, I'm having the exact structure right here, and all these are the directories. So like product, version, sub product. In case of product 2, we do not have any sub product or subcategories, so they are missing. In product 3, we do not have anything apart from the version. So whatever your requirement, you can change that variable accordingly, and you will be good to go. So the reason we do not have any kind of database is that it's using Python's the OS module to travel through the files and those kind of actions. So no dependency of like if anything get wrong with the database or anything. Then what next we have in the data, sorry, in the documentation. So available URLs we have, again, we have homepage, and now I'm pretty much sure. So as the server is started, I can go on the web UI. You can see it's up and running. I have listed 3 products in the config file. I'm having, okay, so I need to log in first again. Even if I want to download the files, I need to log in. So let's register quickly because I don't have any user created as of now. So for this demo, I will be using test password, but I don't recommend anyone to use the password test. So here you can check this option if you are a QE or if you are a developer, and according to that, you will be assigned the proper role. So you might ask that if we have register option for everyone, then what is the scene of this variable? Because any developer can mark themselves as a QE. So that is something which I'm still working on, and we can say that in my case, I'm the one who created everyone's username and password, and provide them through a mail that this is your default password and you can work with it. And then I have disabled the register option so that no one can register. Once you have created the username, you can log in. So now if you click on product 3, you can see the versions we have, sub product we have, categories we have, subcategories we have. So if you do not have any files on the specified directory, again, we haven't uploaded anything yet, so it doesn't have anything. And in case of products 2, you can see we only have the product and the category. In product 3, we only have the product and the versions. So it's up to you how you are dealing with that. So this is the home page. Next we have the about page. Again, about page is holding the same readme.md which I'm reading right now. What are the URLs, what are the available APIs, what are the parameters is required, how the CLI things work and everything. Then again, about, we have checked account. We have account is holding the information of the user, the username, the email address, and the profile picture. So next what we have is upload. So upload is the again, you can upload files through by passing the required arguments like product 1, version 1, subproduct 1, category, subcategory. So in our case, I have created this directory called a bunch of test files, and here I have created a few random test files. Now you can check out that the file should be uploaded, and you can then download it from here. So this is how the web interface works. If you click on the file, it will get downloaded. If you click on the folder, it will get open and list all the files in the specific directory. So this is about the downloading and uploading part from the web UI. Next we have login. Again, if you are logged out, I have shown the login page, register page I have shown. So this thing, home/path something, this URL, so it could be anything behind this path variable. So this is what which get executed every time when I hit product 1, and if I hit product version 02. So this, all these information will be passed to the code, and and the code check the specific directory in the backend and return the list of the directories and files. And if it's a file, then it again check that if it's a file, then it will send that file as an attachment instead of opening that in the browser only. So that is how this URL work. We haven't checked the replace yet. Okay, so quickly go through the replace one as well. So let's upload one more file to product version 2, actually file 1. So now we have two files called file 1. One is in version 01 and another is in version 02. So for replace, you need to pass the file name. It will automatically search the backend and give you the path that where this file exists. So it's on product 1, version 02 and version 01. Now you need to select the another file to which you want to replace it, and once you click on replace, you will be good to go. This is how the replace feature works. So let me again upload another file. If the file is already on the server, it will give you the error that file already exists. Like we have recently uploaded file 1. Again, it said that it's already on the server. So yeah, so this is something which I type here by mistake because I uploaded the documentation like right before the talk. So this section needs to become in the API doc, I would say. So we have the URL called /API, or so some of the things you can check through the browser as well, that it's listing all the products, or this is something how the API for this product work. If I hit it, it will return me the JSON response of what are the products I have. Then what you can see in the documentation that I'm having 3 API: download, upload, replace. Sorry, actually 4 API, and this will just for the home page. And all the APIs do accept some kind of parameters like the product name. So products like here the example product, then its name, then these. So what I mean by example is like this could be the key and this could be the value of that specific parameter. Similarly, there are a bunch of parameters we have. You can check them out offline because I can't like go through all of them as we do not have that much of time. So product, let's quickly check out product one.
Preview.
What was that?
So we are almost time.
Okay. Okay, so I will quickly like go through the documentation only. So you can like check it on your own through by passing the different parameter and its value and specifying the required authentication. Then again we have the CLI. So to set up the CLI, I am thinking to packaging this tool, but for right now this is kind of a temporary fix. You can download the file in the user bin as file server and you will be good to go. And this is how it works. So if you hit the -help command, it will show you all the parameters you can pass and all the 3 commands you have. So either you can use the -p or -U to pass the username password, or you can use the fs password or fs username environment variable to deal with the CLI. This is how the replace CLI works by -old file, -file name, or -file number. So if you have multiple files, you can see in the web UI, I have selected like if I want to replace the first file or second file, that is when the file number comes in use. And if you have only one file, the CLI will automatically replace the file for you. It didn't ask for any file number or anything. So that is how the API for replace work. Again, these are the bunch of example. If you want to list the product, just hit the command line file server download. If you want to list files for a specific file or directories for a specific product, you can use the product parameter. If you want to list for a specific version, you can pass the version. You can pass the subproduct. Similarly, you can pass all the options. We have the categories, the subcategories, and it will do things for you. So if you do not have any file on a specific directory, in that case, CLI will return the empty list. And if you have files, it will list all the files. But if you pass the file name as a parameter, like in our case, I'm using docker.gz, so it has downloaded the file for you. For the upload, again, for a specific product, this is how you pass the parameter and the file name to upload it. You just need to replace the download with upload because you are using the upload CLI. Similarly, for each categories and subcategories, and if you hit something wrong, like if you pass version 03 which doesn't exist on your init or in the config file, it will print you the like it will show you the whole hierarchy that this is how you have configured your current structure. So make sure you are passing things exact, like passing values according to these. Then again, for the replace, if you have multiple files, you need to pass the so if you have multiple file and you didn't pass any file number, it will show you the list of all the files and again ask you to enter the file number. If I have put the file number 5 here, so you can check that this file is being removed from here because that's on number 5. And if you have only one file, it will automatically replace that for you. If you do not have any file, it will give you an 404 as a API return. So all the so building the command line is most difficult part for me because user will be hitting on his system and we need to perform the actions on the server. So that is when I use the APIs like I use the APIs to cover that part, and this is how the CLI thing work. I am hitting the each API using the Python's request module, and I think we are done with time. So honestly, I thought I will be getting 30 minutes, and that's pretty much from my side. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on Twitter, Vipin3699, GitHub 3699, or you can just Google Vipin3699. And that's pretty much from my side. Any questions or anything? I think I can go offline because we are way out of time. So thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Vipin, for the great talk. I think since we are a bit over time, so any questions for Vipin, please take offline. He will be available. So yeah, I think let's moving on to the next talk. So the next talk we have.
Okay, so
yeah, Vipin, go ahead.
One more thing which I want to make sure that, are you guys able to see my screen? Like I just checked that my screen share option was disabled.
No,
What I mean by that? So
yeah.
the screen is visible. Okay.
Yes.
Thank God. I thought I lost everything.
No, that was all fine. Okay, cool. I think let's move to the next talk. So, Suman Debnath, you there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. And I know that it's a tough time for all of us, and making some time out in this scenario, and trying to learn something in the weekend. It's really admirable. So what I'm going to do is I will introduce you to one of the finest tools that I've seen in the recent past, and I've been working on this for the last couple of weeks. I'm no way an expert in StreamLit, but I just thought to share my learning so that you can also make use of this as we go ahead. Okay, so I'll not take much time. I thought that I can give Vipin 5 more minutes so that he can complete his session, because it was pretty interesting and very useful. I will surely explore that after this session. So what we're going to do today is, if you're like me, who has zero idea about web development, has no idea about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all of that, and all you know is Python, then this might be useful for you. So imagine you have a data science project. So we are talking about data science because this tool is developed for machine learning and data science practitioner. But what I learned is you can use it for almost any other application for that matter. But if you look at machine learning folks or data science folks, they may not learn, or they may not good at into web development, right? Like Flask and Django and so on and so forth. But at times they might need to share their project to their peers, or to to universities, or even to your higher ups in the company, just to show the prototype. So that's where StreamLit comes in, which runs a web server on your laptop or on the cloud, wherever you run it, and it can run the it can start the web server on your behalf, and it can take care of all the back end and the front end. So all you have to focus on is what you want to show it to the outside world. Okay, so what we are going to do is we'll just quickly go over a few of the constructs, okay, few of the how easily you can get started with it with few lines of code, and then I'll give you some pointers of how to go ahead from this point onwards to actually build something meaningful. So it's kind of next 10 minutes we're trying to do a hello world of all these techniques that we have, or the feature sets or the methods that we have in the StreamLit package or tool. So the only thing that is needed is you need to install StreamLit. It's pretty simple. Pip install StreamLit, as you can imagine. So what I've done is this is just a Python, just an editor, and I've opened, I created a folder called demo1, and inside that I've just created and file called app1.py. So first thing that we need to do is we need to import StreamLit, and then what we can do is we can just let's say we have to build a build a website, the first thing that we do is we have to put some title. So the way that we can put the title is like this. So st.title, and then whatever text you want to give. So let me save this. And then the only thing that you have to do is you have to come to the same working directory, and you can just run streamlit run.app.py for whatever is the file name. And the moment you run this, it starts a web server on your local system, and here you can see all the text. So this is as simple as that. So now let's say you want to put some header. Okay, so the way that we can give some header is like this. So the moment I save this file, so the way that I put the header is st.header, and I put one more title. It's a sales report. The moment I save this file, you can see that here it says in the top on the browser that a source file got saved. So do you want to render that? So it will always detect the file has been changed, and you don't have to stop and start the web application again, right? Or the app again. So it will dynamically get synced up. And this is how you can actually just run the code or write the code and see the reflection. So let me do one thing. I'll just say always run. So the moment I save this file, it will automatically take the changes. So let's try to do something meaningful. So here I'm just creating a dictionary, and with the sales data for Q1, and I want to just write it on the web page. So here, if you see, I'm just using the st.write method, wherein you can just put whatever you want and it will get rendered there. And if you see, the text has been text has come just like that. But the dictionary, when I printed the dictionary, it has come with a small collapsible arrow, so you can always get this user interface automatically. So that's a beautiful thing. We will also see how you can just print a data frame or pandas data frame to be specific, going forward. So let's try to do that. But before this, let me put some more data for Q2 sales, just like before, like st.header Q1 result. I'm just putting some more data. These are just fake data. And then what we can do is I've already imported pandas in line number 2. So what we can do is now we can create 2 data frames. Right? So data frame is just one of the data type in pandas, which is typically used in data science and machine learning field. So if you look at this, I created 2 data frame, right? 2 data frame I have created, and it's pretty simple, right? We just give the rows and the columns, and it just get created in the backend. And then I can do st.table method to print the data at the table. So if you see this is a table, the static table, and there is a small arrow. You can click on this, it goes to the full screen. You can shrink it down. And then what is interesting is you can also use st.dataframe, which is a method within Streamlit, and it can print the data frame in a nice tabular format, and you can actually sort it based on different columns. So that's pretty nice. So the point I'm trying to make is we should not use this st.table unless until you want to show it to your end user something static. But if you want to show something which people can interact with, then you should always use a data frame wherever it's applicable. Okay, so enough about data frames. So what else you can do? So let's try to make some line charts or some area charts, okay, which we typically do using matplotlib and various other modules or packages. So here what we are doing is we are creating some line chart for this Q2 data frame and some area chart with again with the Q2 data frame. In fact, I was just going over the first session, and I actually named these variables very randomly. And when the last session was going on, I just refactored that so that we don't show you something conflicting which you have just learned 1 hour back. Okay, so that's why that session is really important, and it was a wonderful thought that she shared. So thanks so much for this. So now you can understand that what I'm trying to do, right, with the variable name itself. So if you see now, I've used that st.line chart and st.area chart, and this is how it looks like. It gives you a very nice interactive chart, and I can just hover my mouse and do some zoom in, zoom out, and all of this. And also you get a small extension where you can click and save it in the PNG. See, whatever we have done so far is all our just one line of code, and whatever feature that we are getting out of it, it's amazing, right? If I have to do it with any of the front end framework, I don't think I can do it anytime soon, right? So because learning those things itself takes a different skill set. So a lot of people do that, and it's amazing that they do. But if, let's say, that is not your primary task, you may like to use some tool like StreamLit. So going on, let's try to see what else we can do. Let's try to see how we can have a radio button. So the way that you can have a radio button is like this. You use st.radio, and then you put the text that you want to showcase. And here you see that I've written which quarter, and this is the text that it comes here. And then you put any list or tuple or any iterable with different options like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, whatever. And those are the radio buttons you automatically get. And then you can just use an if condition or whatever method way that you want to handle. You can write different functions, and it will call that function based on the content of this list, right? So if I just say, let's say Q3, if I just say Q3 and save it, you'll find another option called Q3. But since I don't have anything in Q3 in the if-else condition, nothing is coming here. But you get the idea, right? So how interactively you can change this option, and user will get a different chart. So let's see what else we can do. So last thing that I want to show you is this selection box, which is very much important at various applications, especially when you have different data sets and you want your user to select a different. You need to have a selection box, right? So let's try to let's say. Oh, sorry, I just pasted the wrong block. So now if you see, we are using a couple of different widgets. One is the slider. So the way that we use it is st.slider, and then you can, again, the format is almost same for all the methods. So you give the text that you want to print, and then you give the argument with respect to that method. So slider means you need to have a slider like this, right? So slider means two things. One is the start and one is the end, and that's what this 1 and 4 is. And then you put some default number. So let's say the moment the page loads, you want this to be between 1 and 2. If I just do 2 and 3 and save it, it will move to 2 and 3. Okay, so this is exactly what we want. We always want something to be as default, and then you can have the range that user can put in. Okay, so the next is this multi selection. So you can always have these options, whatever you put here. Again, you put the text and you put the array or list, whatever it is, and you can just keep on selecting whatever you want, right? So this is very useful when you have a large data set, but you want to show something filtered. So, and you want that customer or your end user should be able to have that capability to filter that data. So this is how you can do this. Okay, and then you can also have take input from your customer, like you have I can put 2 or 3, whatever it is, and it will come automatically, right? So you can always put that input, and you can use input number underscore input method, and you can also use text.input for taking a text data as well. Okay, so now if you see, whatever we have done so far is all very rough, right? Just to showcase what are the things that we can do. So I have created a same file, but which is little refactored, and it has few more methods to showcase, and that is the most important thing that I wanted to show you. So what I've done is, if you look at this file, all the widgets that I have shown you so far are all created in different small functions, and then I have created a main function. Okay, and this is the only thing that I want to show you, how you can use the caching capability of StreamLit. So before that, since I'm using a different file.app.refactor.py, I need to stop this, and I need to run that application. So again, the same way, app_hyphen refactored. Okay. So the moment I run it, you see there is a small arrow here, right? And if you just click on this, I see all this, a sidebar with different options. These are the things that we have just learned, except this caching and map, which I'm going to tell you now. But all these different options that we have already seen, but now it is coming in different sections, right? And why it is coming in different sections? Because we added a sidebar within that main function. And the way that you can put a sidebar is st.sidebar, and I want to put that on in radio button. So I've just used the radio button option, and then you put the text, and again the same thing. You put all the items that you want to show, right? Text, chart, widgets, whatever it is, right? And then you have some if-else condition, and call that respective function, whatever we have seen in the last section. Now the last thing is the caching. So imagine that you have a huge set of data, and every time you someone loads this page, it would be very painful if it has to cache the data from the backend, right? So that data can stay anywhere. So that's why StreamLit has a wonderful feature called st.cache. It's a decorator, you have to use it. And to stimulate that, I want to show you that how it actually works. So you see what we have done in this download data function, which we are calling when someone selects this caching option, right? If you see when caching selection is caching, I take the input from the user, and then I call this download data function. So in this function, I have a sleep time of 3. So now if I just give some different number, you see that there is a running download data comes in, right? So again, I'm clicking, and let's say I click again. And this is taking a little bit of time because I've intentionally given this sleep just to stimulate some delay. But now if you go back to 3, 2, or 1, it is not taking much time. The reason being is that data has been already cached in StreamLit. But the moment I change some data, let's say I change this to 800, okay, and save this. Now you will see that it will again start, loading the data. All right. So this is how you can make use of a caching mechanism. And internally, the way that it works is it creates a hash table in the backend with a key value, just like how we save a hash table, or how that hash table works. And the key is basically the moment it goes and downloads the data, it creates a hash map. And the moment there is any change, then only it goes back and create a fetch the data from the backend, and again it caches. Now you can control this by various ways. Let's say if I use this option, if I use this option of max entry 2, that means it will just cache 2 entries for this, okay? And time to live is 600. So let's say you don't want to always cache. It might be rampantly getting changed in the backend, and you don't want your web application to have stale data. So in that case, you can control this caching behavior of StreamLit. So to give you an example for this, let's say we change this to max entry 2. So now if I just load 1 and 2, now if I go to 1, and if I go to 2, it is not caching from the backend because these 2 data are already there. But the moment I do 3, it will try to cache again, okay? Because the max entry is kept as 2. And now if I go to 2, it will not cache because it's just like the last 2 recently used data would be there in the how memory works. But the moment I go to 1, it will again cache. So this max entry, and there is various parameters which we have, is basically to make sure that you can control the caching behavior. So that's all I have, and I want you to give you one small thing that you can go over is you don't have to do anything. You can just install StreamLit, and you can just run StreamLit hello the moment you install it, and then you will get a lot of various options, and you can see that how mapping works. I've not gone through the mapping, but it's pretty simple. It has a map method, and the moment you give the longitude and latitude, it can showcase that in your browser. So I'll not take much of your time, but all I want you to do is after this session, or maybe whenever you get time, is install StreamLit and use StreamLit hello before you explore anything, and then you can just come to this page and you can read the code and you can understand how this is working. And we have seen all these small things, how to make a drop box and a check button and all of that. But this will give you some intuition of how you can make use of Streamlit for your web application when you are working on any project in data science. So with that, I'll hand it over to the organizer, and thanks so much for your time. If you have any questions, reach out to me over LinkedIn. You can just search for my name, Suman Debnath. I work for Amazon. So, feel free to reach out. I'd love to learn from you. If you explore and if you find something interesting, I'm working on some project. I'd love to take your learning to build my project as well. So, feel free to stay connected. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sumant. I think it was a great talk. And again, if we need to go to just start on the visualization thing very quickly, I think it's a great library to work upon. So again, thanks for the awesome demo. Okay, moving on.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you. So Subhashree, you there?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Over to you.
Okay. Am I visible too? Yeah. So let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So hi, hello everyone. I hope you all are safe and sound in these hard times. So the topic of my talk is onwards and upwards with Python, where I'm gonna talk about how I explored Python in my college years and how it was all like to go through different phases of it. So first of all, my introduction. My name is Subhashree Hazra. I am an incoming associate software engineer at Deloitte US India. I'm also a Google Explore ML facilitator. Uh, Along with, I had been the winner of Smart India Hackathon 2019 Software Edition, 2019 Hardware Edition again, where I worked with Kotak Mahindra Bank for their problem statement. And I'm also the winner of Smart India Hackathon 2020, where I worked along with Bajaj Finserv Health Limited for their problem statement. So let's move on. So starting with what is the initial phase on the tracks of Python. Okay, so just first of all, let's just explore whatever you can, starting with web development. So web development, what Python has Django and Flask like frameworks. These are the open source frameworks, where Django is a web framework which offers a lot of high level packages around, which makes it fast, secure, and scalable. Again, Flask is a micro version of web framework, which has we can say that it has less batteries included, as compared to Django. But again, it has some pre-existing facilities, like you can have authorization and authentication, and there are certain web templates as well. Secondly, moving to web testing and automation, like there had been also amazing facilities provided by Python, amazing packages, where you can automate web browsing using Selenium. You can automate certain other things using by writing APIs as well. Moving on, game development, I haven't explored much about it yet, but I'm aware that there is a package called Pygame, where you can make certain basic games out of it. A Blender game engine is also there. So a lot of things are possible. Then next, it's big data. So as big data involves a lot of data analysis and scientific computing, Python and big data are like amazing companions to each other. Python offers a lot of well-tested analytics libraries. The libraries it contains for numerical computing, data analysis, statistical analysis, visualization, and a lot of things. Then moving on is machine learning and AI. So ML is a buzzword these days, and Python and ML just go on together. It offers a lot of packages like scikit-learn, pandas, and matplotlib, seaborn, etc. Even the last talk given by Suman, he was talking about StreamLit. It is an open source framework where if you are not aware of web development, you can just project your ML projects on StreamLit. It's a go-to thing. And the last thing is smart devices, where you work with embedded systems, IoTs. Like there are certain big examples like Google Home, Alexa, or Philips Hue, where these are all programmed on Raspberry Pi. So these are the few very common and very popular fields which you can explore while starting with Python. Now moving on, now you have like explored the fields, but now the time is to test your skills. So what are the options? So participate in these following as much as possible, starting with coding competitions. I guess the first speaker, Sapna, she told about how to like move around with coding and how to participate on it, so I won't be talking on it much. Second is hackathons, third is research based conferences, and fourth is give it back to the community. So I'll be speaking one by one about all of these. uh, so starting with hackathon, what is a hackathon? It's a buzzword thing these days. A lot of companies are hiring people on the basis of hackathons. So I would say a hackathon is an event which is organized by an organization or a community, or maybe even college also organize it, where a few programmers, a few people, a team of 3 or 4 just come up together and work on a certain problem statement, and uh, turn it into a prototype. Like they make a solution and make it into a prototype, and you have to do that whole thing in a uh, limited time period, like 24 hours or 36 hours. Maybe it mostly happens in the weekends. So that is something called an hackathon. uh, these are the pictures of my previous hackathons, where the left side I had been into software and the hardware edition of Smart India Hackathon, and this is the journey. So I'll talk about a few hackathon essentials, a few key points, and what go-to points are there. So starting with dare to risk it. I know a lot of people think that, okay, I am very new to this particular technology, or I don't know much of it. I don't know web development, I don't know machine learning, so I don't have enough projects in my profile. So what to do? I would say, just don't think much about it, just give it a shot. Just go for it. And everyone is a first timer, so when you'll give it a shot, you will certainly learn, and then again, slowly by slowly, you'll get it. Second is identifying the problem. So you have a problem statement, so just read it twice and thrice and get to know what it is trying to speak, what is the requirement of the problem statement. Then secondly, third point is research. Like after you have got what is the problem, you'll have to research about it as much as possible. What are the what solutions had already been made on that problem statement? So what are the existing solutions? So what changes you can do, what more things you can make out of it? So research the market as much as possible. Again, the fourth point is solution impact. So who are the people who are getting the impact of the solution? What is the target class of that solution? So just explore about it. Who was the target people, who will be the ones who will be affecting by the solution? Fifth is flowchart. After you have done these 4 points, make a simple on a paper only with a pen, make a flowchart out of it, like what will be the steps from starting till the end. How will you be making the prototype of the solution? Sixth is future scalability. Now, make your solution in such a way that it can be extended in future. Uh, these times, technology has been evolving a lot. A lot of things are added day by day. So make your solution it's in such a way that it doesn't die anytime soon. It should be scalable in future. So this is the thing. The seventh point is time constraints again. So you'll have to manage your time properly. You have only 24 or 36 hours to work on a certain prototype. So you'll have to manage the time. You'll have to give just keep it very like short and crisp and work on it. So, and the last point is presentation. So the presentation is very important. You will have to like present it in such a way that the audience understand, the judges understand. Keep it pictorial, keep it in a flowchart based way, and keep it according to the time provided. The presentations only have like 8 to 10 minutes to present. You should be aware of the time limits as well. So points from my past experiences is like, first of all, I'll say planning and setup. First of all, you'll have to plan your team, you'll have to plan your project. Everything, the planning should be very much like in particular. Secondly is, whatever solution you have thought in your head, you'll have to prototype it. So just start doing that. Third is use specific tech. So like I said, that these days machine learning, or maybe something, machine learning, AI, virtual reality, augmented reality, these things are a very buzzword these days. So one might think that, okay, we'll apply machine learning, the judges will be impressed, or this is some new tech, the judges will be impressed. But it's not like that. Use be specific to your the technology needed for your solution. Don't try to put any extra tech. Just be very like simple, and just be to the point. Now the next is, be very specific about your feedback. So there will be certain mentoring rounds in between the hackathons, like after 5 hours or then after 10 hours. So just go to your mentor, show you whatever you have made, and get as much as feedback possible and work on it. So feedbacks are very necessary. Again, team play, you'll have to, all the members of your hackathon should be on the same page. One should not be thinking the other thing, and then the other person is not, should not be on the other page. Everyone should on be the same point, and team play should go on. And the last is the UI UX matters. So in the hackathon, you should be aware of what UI UX is and how you should be present. In certain hackathons, there are certain brownie points for your UI UX as well. So just have at least one person in your team who is working on that part. It is very important. So this is the part of the hackathon I spoke about. Next is research-based conferences, which I was talking about. So last year I got an opportunity to go on a Google conference, Google ML bootcamp, where I was supposed to present my project, ML project made on exam answer sheets automation, like the automating of subjective answers using ML and natural language processing. That is a project which I'm still working on. So I gave a demo over there, a simple demo, and I was being mentored by some of the higher professionals at Google. So starting from technology to marketing and all. So my project was exam automation, the automating of the subjective answer sheets, subjective answers. So if you have certain projects, certain ML projects, or like you are working on something, you just, if you want to research on it, just look for certain conferences in online, write certain research papers and present it over there, get certain feedback, so you'll feel much confident, okay, that I'm working on this, I got this thing. So just if you're working on certain research based papers, just go for certain conferences too. uh, Now the third is giving back to the community. While I was learning, I just wanted to give it back to my juniors, and just work on certain other things. So I gave it via certain webinars and workshop. This year it has been this year and the last year it has been totally online. So I gave a few online webinars as well. In 2019, I was a part of. I gave a workshop on ML and data science in 2019 in two different colleges, my college as well as another college at SRM. If you are working on something, then you should not keep it up to yourself. Just spread it across your juniors or your people around. So I feel it is very essential. Then what happened next? So last year I got a chance to talk to PyLadies Chennai. I had an interaction, and they had me interviewed for like Pythonista and you are women in tech, certain certain that things. So I went across their ideology, and I thought that okay, maybe this is the time that I should be a part of certain community where girls are working together to for benefit of each other. So I came across PyLadies. So what is PyLadies India? It is an again uh, a part of an international mentorship group. It's a part in India where women and active participants and leaders in Python open source community. The mission of is to promote, educate, and advance diverse Python community through outreach, education, and conferences and many social gatherings. So there are in India we have certain regional chapters like Bangalore, Bhubaneswar, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai, Pune. Next, what was my next step? As I said, that I wanted to be a part of certain community which gives me a spark to work around with people. So it was quite challenging to work around, to look for inspiration and to have certain professional growth, to work with diverse minds, launching certain initiatives and breaking certain international barriers. So while I worked with I entered to PyLadies Hyderabad. So we at PyLadies Hyderabad are looking a local chapter for an international mentorship group. What we do, we encourage women to participate and grow with the community. We volunteer and represent ourselves in big conferences like PyCon, and etc. We organize regular talks, discussions, and meetings, workshops, etc. We work on projects, and at last, we have a lot of swags to give to our people as well. So this is what PyLadies Hyderabad and Hyderabad Py had been working all along. We had been a lot of meetings. Sorry, we had a lot of meetings on different subjects, on different domains. We had conferences. We had workshops on open source. We have workshop on different Python domains like visualization, big data, and then a lot of things. This year, since it has been a lockdown, uh, from home we were looking for certain things to be move forward to. So lockdown was not able to lock us up, so we at PyLadies Hyderabad initiated a boot camp thing where people who are already having certain knowledge on certain domains will be able to guide the newbies on those domains. So we initiated this boot camp thing, and we are a part of a training and project initiative where one mentor will be guiding five mentees at a time. So this is the contact, how to reach us, the PyLadies Hyderabad thing. So but this is not till what it should be. We have another thing in a bigger picture, that is PyCon India 2021. The organizers of this PyFlames have already told about it in the beginning, that it's a combination of workshops, sprints, dev sprints, and talks where people will be giving talks. People will be there to attend those workshops, and a lot of fun, a lot of things are there. What PyLadies sorry So what PyLadies and PyCon are related to each other is something that is interesting. So 2016 was the year when PyCon saw the appearance of PyLadies in it, where women came forward to such conference. Last year there was a booth of PyLadies which was virtual due to COVID, but it saw a lot of exciting things, a lot of exciting talks, such as women leading successful communities, women in leadership roles, women rejoining workforce after long career break, women doing a great entrepreneurship, women in research, women in open source contributions, and other things, tech conferences and grants. So I would say to the women that just move forward and attend these conferences, or just be a part of these conferences to be more confident in this world, in the Python world. So this is all about PyLadies and PyCon, and my journey from being starting with hackathon, and then research based conferences, and finally participating in a community where I can work around with different people, and I can choose initiatives to share with the world. So that's all. I'll end up with a quote that keep challenging yourselves to think better, to do better, and dare to be different in this world. And that's all from my side. I would say just stay positive and test negative in these hard times. And any questions for me?
Thank you, Subhashree, for the awesome talk. I think.
Okay, thank you, the organizers of PyFlames. It was really appreciated to having me a part of this.
Any questions for Subhashree? I think Subhashree would be available offline, so maybe she can take the questions because I think we are almost time on this. So thanks again, Subhashree.
Okay,
thank you. So now we would be having a quick 5 minutes break, but before that there are certain announcements. So yeah, just a minute.
Thanks.
Event.
Yeah, just let me share my screen. Just a moment, I'm sharing my screen.
Sure.
Yeah, it's okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Over to you.
Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all staying safe. It's a weird time.
Anand, okay, now it's showing. Okay.
Yeah. Any issue with my voice or my screen?
Voice is not, but the screen is now again blank.
Okay, let me do this. How about now?
Not yet. It's blank still.
Okay, let me stop and share it again.
Sure.
It's my pleasure to kind of give a talk at the Python community. I used to be kind of very active in the Bangpypers and other meetups, but these days not so much. So this is a talk. I gave a talk at the same title at the PyCon Hyderabad. I want to kind of give an update about like what I talk about that and kind of what else I'm kind of building on it. So before I kind of start the talk, let me kind of give a brief introduction of myself. My name is Anand, and I've been creating software for the last 2 decades. I'm very passionate about education. I've trained hundreds of engineers. I conduct professional programming courses. I've recently tried a startup and failed. Currently, I work for Fast United Foundation. So I was very active with the Python community in India. In 2013 and 14, I was leading the PyCon India conference. And at the time, there are 2 initiatives that I kind of did. One was started this idea of Python month, invited people who are interested to teach Python and colleges who want to kind of have a Python workshop, and did the match. And a lot of this group of volunteers kind of taking phone calls and matching them, and then so many people went and actually did the trainings, and it was a remarkable event. We had about 1,000, about 100, more than 100 workshops were conducted across India during that period. So the idea kind of came about because like I was passionate to kind of go and actually do something, teach Python, etc. But it's so hard even to kind of go to a college and start a conversation and then start doing that. Okay, so realized, well, like the barrier to kind of someone to kind of go and actually make a difference, even if they are willing to, is really hard. And we try to kind of bridge that gap. And we tried to kind of extend that idea, and then ran that as an year-long program called Python Experts. It went on for some time and then stopped for different reasons. In 2015, I started People Academy, an organization that does Python trainings to corporates. in 2021, like this year beginning, I joined Fascinated Foundation, and I'm trying to kind of see how some of these ideas that I've done in the past can be scaled up and reach to more people. So the fundamental idea, what I'm talking about is like, what's a good way to learn programming, especially if you talk about beginner, okay? I'm not talking about people who have access to computers from their school days, okay? Think of someone who actually maybe in their school or first year of engineering, and they want to learn programming, and it's really difficult if they don't have any access to computer before. So the questions that come to us are, what's a good programming language to start? People say Python is a good language. Is it really true? I mean, so I used to think like that, but I came to a conclusion that it's really not what programming language that you start with, but actually what you do with that language is what really makes a difference. And what's a good approach, right? So I've been kind of playing around some of the ideas around this, and I'm going to kind of show some of that to you now. So if you see what are the fundamental ideas of programming, and fundamental ideas of programming are not really about the modern frameworks or libraries, etc. But fundamental ideas are basically how do you take a simple idea and then bring complex ideas out of that. And programming gives some tools to kind of do that. Okay, so when you're teaching programming, a lot of times we generally miss that point and get lost in the syntax and different details. Okay, but trying to focus on what's the fundamentals of programming, how can that be passed to people who are learning programming in the beginning is something that I'm really kind of trying to understand here. So the challenge that is like, let's say given a function to draw a circle under Python to you, what can you do, right? So this is again, I gave a live coding talk at PyCon Hyderabad in December. Since then, I kind of refined some of these ideas and built a platform kind of doing that. I'm going to share some of that with you. So let me kind of take the challenge and kind of quickly take 5 minutes and show like what is kind of possible to do with this. Okay, so let me start here. So let me take, sorry. Yeah. So I'm kind of doing this demo here. Okay, so if I run, there's a function to draw a circle. If I change, yeah, let's say if I change x to 200, it will move to the right. Give me a moment, something is not working here. Just a moment. Okay, just give me a moment. I think there's something went wrong here. Sorry. Okay. Sorry for the goof up. Something went wrong when I was configuring that. Okay, so let's take this. So if I run that, it'll actually show, yeah, circle. Okay. Now, given this, you can change x to kind of move it to the right, or change y to move it up and down, and change the size, the diameter to kind of make the circle smaller and bigger. So that's the only thing that we're given. So the reason kind of getting into this is like when someone learns programming, right? A lot of times we start with syntax of the language and kind of get into loops, if conditions, etc., etc. Okay, but I'm trying to kind of figure out a better way which people can actually relate to something they already know. So let's kind of start. Okay, so now let's say we know how to draw a circle. Let's see if we can actually make a donut having a circle inside a circle. Okay, so what I can do is I can actually take the same thing and make a smaller one inside that, so that will kind of become a donut or a vada. What if we want to kind of make this slightly bigger? Then I have to change size of both the circles, right? I have to make that 200 and this is 100. That will become bigger. what if I want to move it, that kind of change both of them? Okay, why not actually use variables to do that, right? So you actually define, let's say, the x, y, and d, the variables, and this kind of allows us to change them. For example, if I want to make x change x, that would actually move. Okay, so that relation between that one circle is half of this other circle is kind of captured by using variables. So this is how we can actually introduce variables to somewhat opposite in your word programming. Now let's say now we already have functions, but can we kind of teach the computer how to draw a donut so that we can actually draw it multiple times? So what we could do is we could write a function donut takes 3 arguments, and that so now we can just say donut, let's say 50, 50, 50. Let's take 150 and 100. So kind of drawing 2 donuts now. So you can use that to do multiple repeat same shape multiple times. Now that we have seen a circle and a donut, let's see if we can actually do something more slightly more complicated. Okay, let's say I won't have concentric circles, or let's say I want to kind of put donuts in a row, right? So what I can do is let's start with x 50 by 100 and d equal to 50. Let's say I want to draw 5 of them, or you can use a loop to do that for I in range. Let's say 5. So you draw a donut, x, y, and d. So what happens is it actually draws, or even just a circle for that matter. It draws a circle, but it's drawing 5 circles, but drawing exactly the same place. So what we need to do is you need to change either x, y, or d to draw repetitively. So some of these things kind of come very naturally to us because we've been programming for a long time, but someone completely new to programming, these ideas are hard to explain, right? So now what happens if I change d, change y instead of x? You'll actually get it vertically. What happens if you actually, well, I think I should have said step, okay, it's 50, okay. So what if I actually change, or just say plus 50, okay. If I change d, what happens? Or yeah, so I keep x is 150 now, okay. So what happens? You actually get a concentric circles because we're increasing the size of d. So what if I actually change both x and d at the same time? Right? So 50 is probably too big. I'll actually make it 20. Yeah, you see, kind of getting kind of conic kind of shape. Maybe I'll actually change d slightly less. And sorry, yeah. If I just change x slightly less, kind of get a very interesting shapes. Or you can even kind of do, so it's like concentric circles, but it's kind of getting it in a weird, in a slightly skewed shapes. So people can actually play with shapes like this and kind of understand how to use the concepts of repetition, etc., and conditions. Okay, so let's quickly try one more thing. Okay, now that we know how to draw a circle, a concentric circles, etc., let me use the same idea to kind of draw concentric circles. Concentric circles, take x, y, and d, and you take an n. You can make slightly bigger. I'm not sure if you can see it. Okay. So I can do is for so n times we'll draw a circle x, y, and d. So reduce d as we go along. Step would be d by n. So that gives concentric circles to us. Now I can actually comment this piece and draw concentric circles 150, 150, and say 200. Right, so we try to draw donuts concentric circles. The other thing that we can do is you can actually put them in a grid. So what you can do is draw a grid. It takes a shape, which is any function that draws a shape, and how many times you want. Okay. Now the delta would be, so in this case, the width and height are set to 300. Okay. So W is 300 and H is 300. Delta would be W or H by N. Now what we can do is, so we'll go N times in horizontally and N times vertically. We just need to draw a shape with X, sorry. Take the shape, X, Y, and the size would be, I just can call this D, okay? We have to compute X, Y, and D. So X would be I into D, Y would be J into D, but that will point to the top left corner. So we want the center of that, so we have to add D by 2. So if you do that, I'm not calling this, okay? So I can say grid circle 4, that would actually draw 4 circles. I can say donut, instead of a circle, it will draw donuts. Or I can say concentric circles, it will draw concentric circles. It's very interesting things you can do. And I feel like this is an interesting way to learn programming because everything is kind of visual. And if somebody makes a mistake, we can immediately see that it's actually not, it's actually wrong, rather than looking at numbers and wondering if it's correct or not. So, so this is these are some of the ideas that I'm working on. And let me go back to my slides. Yeah. So these are the different kind of things that you can actually make by using these things. For example, I haven't added randomness to, you can add a bit of randomness to kind of generate interesting shapes like that. Okay. I didn't kind of do that in the interest of time. The reason I'm going to bring up is like, I feel this is a very interesting way to learn programming for someone completely new. So for making this possible to bring Python to the web, we created something called Live Code. This is a project I've been working at Fascinated for quite some time. You can check it out at livecode.fascinated.org. So the idea is like, can we bring Python to the web? Okay, there are different people who are doing this kind of ideas, but what I'm trying to do is kind of make it really easy to use, and also expand on what all is possible to do that. Okay, for example, if I look at live code, so this is the demo that we have. You can actually run Python. It actually runs Python in the server and gives output back here. You can actually see the output here. So what I have also done is to kind of integrate that with the canvas. You can actually draw something here, the demo what I've showed. You can do this here. The third thing what we've done is actually experimentally kind of see if you can actually get let Python play music. I'm not sure if you can hear, if someone can respond back.
Yeah.
Do you hear the music?
No, music is not audible.
Not audible. Okay. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Let me stop share and share again. I think there's an option to kind of do that when I share it.
No, I think I got the music.
Got the music. Okay.
It was Saregama Padhanisa, right?
Yeah, just notes. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
We heard some notes.
Yeah. Just a minute. I'm sharing it again. I think it's an option to share sound. Yeah. So the thing is, like, we've been experimenting with different ideas. Like, can we teach programming through music, through sound? Okay. Now, how do you play these notes, ascending and descending? Can you write loops to do that? Okay. Right? Can you kind of add some randomness, etc.? So the way it works is basically it runs a Python code in the server, and then that sends some commands to the front end, and front end have an adapter that kind of understands that and then does some actions. In this case, it's playing music. The canvas case is drawing circles on the screen. So this can be kind of extended to different ideas. And so the reason we kind of built this is not really to kind of see this kind of possible, but actually kind of make people learn programming. So we're also starting a project, a learning platform called MonSchool. The idea is there'll be courses designed by experts, delivered by passionate mentors to a small group of students. Okay, so if you look at online education, right, most of the courses are basically the mocks, there's one course which, and like thousands of people can attend. What happens is like the attention rate is very high. People start there, they get stuck somewhere and don't know what to do, and they leave it. I'm sure like most of us have gone through that. Okay, so what we are trying to do is to, if can we bring human touch to online education? So what does it mean is experts will design courses. People have experience with the teaching, experience with understanding pedagogy and all this stuff, and people who are good at programming or good at those subjects will deliver it to a small group of students. For example, let's say you want to teach programming to kids in your community or your apartment complex. It's really hard to figure out how do you do that, right? Because you don't have to figure out what's the right subject and what right problems to give, what to do, etc. So what we're trying to do is to kind of, can you get a platform that will let them reduce that barrier to do that? Okay, because there will be a course already available. There will be some videos, there will be some exercises, and then a mentor has to kind of make sure the students are doing it. And if they get stuck, help them get over that. Okay, so that way the barrier for a mentor to kind of do that is really small. Okay, so this can be used to teach programming, for example, freshers in an engineering college or in a school, etc. It's not really limited to programming. For example, teaching language. For example, you want to teach English or Kannada or Hindi, right? I mean, you can actually build a platform where there will be videos and assignments, and then a mentor can actually work with a small group and then help them complete the course. So that's kind of idea we're kind of working on. This is not live yet, but I'm looking for collaborators. Okay, so one, improving live code. So what you can do with live code is basically you can actually take a simple. So this is something I kind of felt. If you look at the HTML page of this, it'll actually have. Sorry, yeah. So this basically has a markdown file with all the code written in a code block, and everything else comes automatically. And you can write tutorials with live code. So we want to kind of integrate the live code into any tutorials. So sites, right? We want to kind of look for collaborators to improving live code and development of the learning platform on school, and mentors to kind of offer these kind of courses. For example, you want to teach programming to your community, something similar to what we did with Python Month and Python Express back then with Python. But this is not really about Python, but learning programming, and Python happened to be the tool that we used here. So we're looking for collaborators. Please reach out to me if you are interested, or if this thing looks interesting. Happy to have a chat if you're interested. And forgot to mention, this is completely open source. You can use it on your projects, self-host it if you want. And thanks, that's all. You can reach out to me at Anandology on Gmail, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever. And these are the links to the repositories that we have, and you can play with live code at FOSS.org. Yeah, I'm open for questions if you have time.
Okay. Any questions for
if there's a time for a quick question, can I just ask one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Anand. Thank you so much for this. I just had one question: how to approach the problem of limited resource when we try to teach? Example, everybody doesn't have a system. It's not exactly related to Python, but also if there is a way we could do that using this.
Yeah, true. So, I mean, one thing that we're kind of trying hard is to kind of see if this can actually be work in a mobile screen as well. Okay, let me kind of, so it actually works well in a mobile screen also. We kind of tried hard to kind of make sure that that is possible. For example, if I make this smaller, okay, it kind of, if you're looking at the mobile screen, etc., right? I mean, it kind of comes down. It actually not, I wouldn't say this is kind of wonderful in a mobile screen, but it's good enough to kind of also use it in a mobile screen. So someone with limited resources still can actually use this.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And can you please put the link if I missed the link for Mon School? Because this looks like
Mon School is not up yet. Okay. So we'll be kind of releasing it shortly.
Sure,
yeah. You can maybe just drop me a note. I'll update you when it is.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm actually looking at people to kind of collaborate on becoming mentors and offering these courses and designing new courses and improving the Mon School platform, and also the live code, because live code right now runs in Docker container, but you can actually make it really easy to host it by putting it on, let's say, AWS Lambda, for example, so that we don't have to kind of have a server running all the time. So there are a lot of ideas that can be done, and please reach out to me if you're interested. For example, you can extend this to kind of play games, write games in the browser, just like I did Canvas and music. You can extend that to building games in the browser, etc. So there's a lot of ideas. I'm really looking for with people to collaborate with. Please reach out to me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anand, for the awesome talk. Like, I think it's really nice to see like the visual of programming. Like anyone can, kids can see what's happening, as you mentioned, rather than going through numbers and different codes. So yeah, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thanks.
Moving on to our next talk, ethical consideration while building AI systems. Anjali, you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, over to you.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Anjali. I'm currently working as a software engineer at Paytm, and I'm also a part-time graduate student at the University of Washington, Seattle. I'm studying computational linguistics, and I've previously done research in natural language processing problems and like various problems like machine translation and speech emotion recognition. I'm currently interested in ethical considerations for AI systems, which is what we're going to talk about today in my presentation. So I'll share my screen right now and stop my video because of a little internet problem. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, so starting with what are ethics, right? Ethics are basically a standard version of good and bad, right and wrong. Like in any society or any organization, you must have a set of rules that govern behavior. Like there are some boundaries that cannot be crossed. There are some things that always have to be kept in mind while developing something or while going out and doing something. So ethics are a set of rules for that. And ethics are like, you can conflate them with a value system, like something which everyone has to adhere to in order to live peacefully and like function well as members of a society. Now, coming to the field of AI. So recently, you must have seen a lot of articles on like these large language models like GPT-3 and like these large facial recognition and surveillance algorithms by Amazon. All of these creating massive controversies in recent times. And like I wish to discuss these things in more detail in my presentation. So I'll go forward. So first of all, why do we need ethics in AI? Like it's just a field in computer science. Why should we be defining ethical principles for this particular area? So first of all, as you know, AI AI principles and models and techniques are fast becoming ubiquitous in today's world. Like they're literally there everywhere. We're using them for like recommendation systems. We're using them for grading in universities. We're even using them for like driverless cars and medical diagnosis, especially during COVID-19, where so many machine learning and data analysis methods are coming up for diagnosis or studying trends and so on. So given that AI is growing at an incredible pace and it's spreading all across the world, it makes sense that there are even like it's starting to be used even for policy making. Like governments are wanting to use it for better governance and developing better policies and so on. So if AI systems are to be used as for policy making, it is important that they be answerable to the public, that they have a value system of their own, which enables them to not be harmful for some sections of society. They need to be fair, they need to be transparent, and they need to be ethical. So like some examples that I can give is in the US, the Los Angeles Police Department recently came into controversy because they were using Amazon's facial recognition systems for surveillance. And the problem with Amazon's algorithm was that it was detecting Black people as more likely to be criminals than white people, even if the white person had a criminal history and the Black person did not. Like even today, you can see instances of such algorithms on even Twitter. I remember someone had posted an experiment in which they had uploaded pictures in which one side there was a Black person and one side there was a white person. And Twitter's algorithm would always display the white person's face first, and only on maximizing the picture did we see both the Black person and the white person. Like the algorithm is training itself on what society sees. The algorithm is training itself on society's biases. So even today, there are many such like models which are discriminatory towards several sections of society, and which brings the question of how do we make these systems better? Like how do we can't possibly use these for policy making if they just reflect the biases that we have in society. Policies are supposed to be beyond biases. Policies are supposed to be for everyone. So this brings me to the idea of stakeholders. So stakeholders are the people who will be using the code we write, who will be the recipients of what we're making. Like say the users of Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat, right? Usually what happens is like most of the data that we have, most of research in machine learning and AI is based on English, because most of the data that we have is crawled from the web, and the web itself is dominated by English because internet access is a matter of privilege, and privileged people usually tend to gravitate towards speaking and writing in English. You can see that in India as well. Like most of our communication online is in English, and like that leads to a bias because like you don't even know, like you don't know what the real pulse of a nation is or the society is if you just tend to examine them from a single language, because there are so many languages and cultures in the world. So you cannot so subsystems are not representative of like are not a good representative of society in general, and therefore the recipients, the stakeholders of these are also just a privileged class who can speak and understand English, which is unfair because a significant majority of the world does not speak in English. This brings me to inherent biases. As I mentioned before, that machine learning models only work on the data they are given, and the data is crawled in massive amounts from the internet. And most of the data on the internet is again reflects a very small demography of English speaking privileged people. So the biases that these people carry will reflect in what they're posting on the internet. So there's a lot of racist, homophobic, xenophobic content online. Like as you might have seen, like there's so much of fake news and misinformation and hate speech and violence against like so many different sects of people, like Jews and Muslims and uh, so the point is that since machine learning algorithms have been fed such data, they're going to reflect these biases. Now the problem with this is that since there's so much toxic content on the internet, and these algorithms are deployed on an extremely large scale, as in for instance GPT-3, then and like so they risk perpetuating the biases that they have been fed. They risk moving them ahead. They risk communicating them with more and more people and continuing to spread the evil. Like this has already happened many times in recent times. Like I remember Microsoft recently released a bot on Twitter, and at the beginning it was just taking data and talking to people and normally, and within a short while it had started to spout really disgusting racist and misogynistic content. It was just training itself on what data it was being fed, and most of the data on the internet on Twitter is so poisonous that like it doesn't take long for such automated systems to literally start spouting evil. and and like there have been so many incidents of this happening more and more. Like someone also released a GPT-3 bot on Reddit, and it also started giving out conspiracy theories. There has been research that the GPT-3 model, which was released by Elon Musk's company OpenAI, it can be trained to give conspiracy speeches, conspiracy theories on QAnon and so on. These models, the problem is that if these models are working like this on data given in good intent, then what would happen if these models come in the hands of bad actors who want to use these models for to promote extremist ideologies, to recruit people for violent activities and so on. There is extreme risk in using these models, which needs to be taken care of, which needs to be considered. And it is very important that we put a stop to the poisonous ideas that can be perpetrated by deploying these models on a large scale. Also, the next I wish to discuss is inequitable research access. So most of the research that's coming in machine learning and all these days is coming from big companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook, and even the massive bigger universities, right? Like those which have a lot of funding, which have a lot of computing power and access. And because of that, they can generate large amounts of data, and they can source large amounts of data, and they can create massive models. Something like a GPT-3 cannot be created by someone working in a small startup in, say, Delhi. It simply cannot. So I feel like the field is the field of machine learning research is starting to move towards who has the more amount of money, who has the more amount of power, and that should not be what research should be about. Research has always historically been a freeing area in which anyone can come in and work on their ideas independently. It should not be a matter of who has the more money, who can source more data, and who can who has the most clout among people. Like we should not be accepting, say, OpenAI's model blindly just because Elon Musk released it. You know, there are a lot of harms. Obviously there are a lot of good things as well, because it is incredible that a model is being built with billions of parameters. But like my professor released a paper recently on the limitations of such models, like how important it is to consider the stakes while deploying such models, how important it is to document the consequences, and be as transparent as possible in the entire model development pipeline. The final thing I wish to discuss was about environmental and financial costs. So in this case, it's something that we really do not consider, right? We don't care about like trees being cut down when we're, I don't know, writing a recommender system using something from scikit-learn, right? But there has been research on this recently that massive models being trained on lots of GPUs have a huge carbon footprint, and companies usually do not acknowledge this. And while some people are gravitating towards more greener and cheaper approaches, most of the field is not. This is really important because we're literally at a tipping point of climate change, and since machine learning is literally at its peak right now, and so many people are deploying so many models wastefully, it's very important that we establish guidelines for these and focus on making our models as efficient and cheap as possible. The focus on computational efficiency will help keep costs down and also lead to a lesser carbon and energy footprint. So all these reasons are, all these factors are why we should be having strong ethical principles while developing our machine learning systems. I finally come to like approaches, like how we can mitigate these harms in the field. So some of them are like clear documentation and data collection. Like the entire process has to be transparent. The data has to be sourced ethically. The people from who you're collecting the data have to be like kept in the loop, have to know where their work is going. And the stakeholders need to be identified, like who are the people who are going to benefit or be deprived of this model, like what effect is it going to have in society. Like our fields focused in papers and models tends to be on accuracy, like the higher accuracy the better, but I feel like now a paradigm shift is needed. So moving from accuracy to how this model is going to function in society is something I feel is very important, because otherwise people will just keep on uploading, will just keep on sharing these models and unleash so much chaos, like especially like during US elections, during Indian elections. There's so much misinformation and hate speech and violence spread around through social media. And like these websites are powered by massive machine learning models, and even surveillance systems work on machine learning. And yeah, machine learning is political, irrespective of whether we irrespective of how separated we are from like politics or society in general. The fact is that what we create has consequences and we should keep them in mind. So lastly, I'll wrap up fast by saying that research also needs to be more equitable. It should not be in the hands of only large actors who have a ton of money and resources. So like things like open sourcing the research, so the entire community can benefit from them, and maybe developing centralized government-controlled cloud computes instead of massive Amazon servers can also help. Like distribute resources to everyone who wants to do research. It'll this way we try in this way we lead to like mitigating some of the problems that come with this field, because like an increasing amount of research is meant, like people are now realizing that this field is progressing with breakneck speed, but the consequences and the side effects and risk analysis is something that's sorely missing, because everyone's just so taken in by all the hype of AI and like the idea of doing everything automatically. Sometimes, no. Sometimes it is important to have people in the process, because the model is going to be for people. If you remove all sense of human presence from the model development pipeline, then you risk encoding biases and harms, and you risk perpetuating them. You risk making a model which has no understanding of humans in reality, and it's still being used on humans. So yeah, this is all I had to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Anjali, for the great talk. If there are any further questions for Anjali, please take it offline, because I think we are already on time. So thanks, Anjali, again for the talk.
Thank you.
Let's move to our next talk, Harsh.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Harsh. So talk will be on build serverless applications using AWS Chalice. So yeah, over to you, Harsh.
Sure. Let me share my screen. Can anyone just confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes. It's visible.
Sure. So good evening and hello everyone. And thanks for joining me for this talk on building serverless Python applications using AWS Chalice. And in this talk, we will be basically discussing a bit about serverless computing, AWS Lambda and AWS Chalice, which happens to be the Python serverless framework on AWS. So I would be explaining about serverless and AWS very quick. And I will also explain on how you can develop and deploy a very simple Hello World application on AWS Chalice using some of the AWS resources. Before starting up, let me introduce myself. My name is Harsh, and I'm currently interning at Red Hat with the Customer Content Services team. And I'm a third-year engineering student from Satyabhama Institute of Science and Technology. So let's get started up. So here's the agenda for today's short talk. In today's talk, we will be basically discussing about the basics of serverless first and how you can get started with serverless development using AWS. We will also get a head start on developing serverless applications using Chalice and why it is such a great choice for developing serverless Python apps. I will also demonstrate a very simple application on how you can set up your Chalice application using the command line interface, how you can test it locally, and how you can deploy it on AWS with a very short and sweet demonstration. So with this determination, let's get started up. So let's beg our attention to the very first question. What is serverless? So let me just start with the elephant in the room. Serverless doesn't exactly mean no servers. It simply means that the underlying servers are being hidden from the developer. Like when you're talking with an external API, the underlying infrastructure of the application is completely hidden from you, and you simply don't have to worry about it. It is rather a confusing term because of the less keyword, but don't let it fool you. You will still have to manage some kind of an infrastructure. So in very layman terms, serverless architecture or serverless computing, it simply means that your backend logic will be running on some sort of a third-party server infrastructure, and you don't have to worry about it a lot. It does not mean that there is no server to run your backend logic. It just means that you don't need to actually maintain it. So why should you bother about it after all? So with a serverless platform, a programmer or a developer can write code and directly run it on the cloud without worrying about the hardware, operating system, configurations, servers, and all of that. They can simply write the business logic as the code, then run the code without needing to be aware of the development and the deployment complexities. Applications can scale very high. They are highly available without putting in any additional effort from the developer side. And all of this can simply reduce the development time and also the cost. And all of these simply make serverless a very lucrative choice to get started with the development. So earlier, if we wanted to set up our website for a global use, we needed to have a server up and running that can process requests and render the application on the user side, right? So this was a traditional approach that we followed a few years back. Server computing was a de facto way of serving applications, and we needed dedicated engineers to maintain the servers and the backend code. With the introduction of serverless, that requirement has been rooted out completely. So I hope you now understand the basic philosophy and the requirements behind serverless computing. It is universal, and various cloud service providers like AWS, GCP, Azure are offering serverless compute services that we can capitalize upon. AWS Lambda is one such service provided by Amazon Web Services. So what is Lambda after all? So AWS Lambda is a service provided by Amazon Web Services. And in a simple way, you can use it to store your function on the cloud and trigger these functions with events like API calls or database modifications and many more. Behind the scene, without having anyone take a look at it, Amazon manages running servers handling these function execution, which needs resources to completely execute your function without putting in any additional effort. So AWS Lambda takes care of the needed resources and continuous scaling as a server so that you can successfully run your functions. And this simply overcomes the headache of scaling application. And also we can allow or prevent the function from accessing the resources. One of the biggest strengths of AWS Lambda is a reduced cost of execution. You don't have to pay anything when your code isn't running. This ensures that you don't pay for the time when you're not actually running the code or your application is actually not being used. Lambda has more advantages than what I have actually stated here. So feel free to explore more about Lambda on the documentation, and do let me know if you have any questions about the same. And now here is the protagonist of this talk, AWS Chalice. We have talked a lot about serverless, Lambdas and all, but where does Chalice comes in? So as a developer, the advantage that AWS Lambda provides are huge. We do have servers up and running, but we don't need to provision them and maintain them. Our duty solely relies on providing the function, that is the code, to the servers with an added advantage of paying only for the compute time that has been used. Under the hood, AWS Lambda makes use of a whole lot of services to make this happen, like flexible scaling and for high availability. And this is the reason it can be the go-to service for our serverless deployment. AWS Chalice is a micro web framework similar to Flask that allows for development and deployment of API-based microservices and applications pretty easy compared to anything else. Except for the code part, the scaling, packaging, and the deployment is completely done by Chalice for us almost instantaneously. So have you ever made use of a microwave framework like Flask to develop and deploy APIs? I hope most of you already have. So Chalice is pretty much a very similar web framework with a lot of features and syntax that is quite similar to that of Flask, albeit it runs completely on AWS resources and offers a single click deployment. The best part about working with Chalice is that we get all the functionality that we can expect from an API development framework, and it provides more functionality with some of the AWS toolings like S3 storage, simple queue service, API gateways, and more. So let us see how we can set up a simple project on Chalice. Can anyone just confirm if my screen is being visible?
Yes,
not my
visible.
screen, actually my terminal. Yeah. So I have already set up a folder, a directory, and I have already set up a virtual environment. It is highly advisable that you use Chalice from a virtual environment. So let us first get started with installing the Chalice using pip. So Chalice comes with a very handy command line interface tool that can be installed by pip, and it allows us to set up the whole Chalice project almost automatically, test it locally, and deploy it as well. So let's take a look at the various commands that is provided by Chalice. So first we have got this new project command that we're going to use to set up our new project. We have the local command that allows for testing of the APIs on the local machine. And finally, we have got this deploy command, which allows us to instantaneously deploy this application on AWS. So let us first get started with creating a new project on Chalice. So let's keep this project as PyFlames. Yeah. And when we take a look at it, we can now instantaneously go into it, and we can automatically see that we have got two files right here. The first one is the requirements.txt, and you will not find any requirements right here because Chalice, when it is being deployed, it is not kept as a production requirement. It is just for our own local development needs that we have installed Chalice by pip. Let's take a look at our app.py file. So it has only one route that would assign the URL of the application to the function pretty easily. And the decorators here basically simply wrap the functions here, which makes it easy to write the code logic by breaking them down into separate routes. For now, our application is serving only a JSON message, which is pretty much like hello world. So if we just jump back to our slide, yeah. So now that we have already like a simple hello world API, let's move ahead and try to test it locally. So for testing it locally, we are going to do a very simple thing. We are just going to pass the command chalice local. And now, as you can see, it is being served on a local port, and we can easily use some sort of an API testing tool like Postman or curl to basically test this API route if it is functioning properly or not. So if I just go back to my VS Code, so, and let me just copy this up. Yeah, so now we are getting our API response, which is pretty much hello world right here. So now we have a Chalice development server up and running on the local port 8000, and we can simply start adding in more and more features to it according to our own requirements as the way we find fit. So since we have the Chalice application already up and running, let's move a step ahead and let's try to deploy it. So if you're using some other sort of a web framework like Django or Flask, you have to configure a lot of things up there to make it work on the server. But with Chalice, it simply takes one command to automatically deploy it on AWS. So let me just close this up and let me use the command deploy. So this command will automatically create a package for us, which will be deployed on the AWS Lambda, and it will automatically extend a REST API that we can use in our service as the way we find fit. So once we run this command, it will automatically create the deployment package, the IAM role, the Lambda function. And within a few seconds, we will see the REST API, which we can easily curl or we can test on our local machine to see on how it is working up. So as expected, now we have the REST API URL right here, and we have the Lambda ARN. So let's do one thing. Let's copy this REST API and let's curl it up. And now we have got our hello world message right here. So with AWS Chalice, you can add more and more features to it. You can simply interface it with other AWS services, like I stated before, like SQS, SNS, API gateways, and more. And you can also use it to like create triggers so that it becomes really easy for the developers to create serverless apps so that you can just develop and deploy it on AWS directly without having to manage the whole infrastructure and all of that. So with this, I'm almost at the end of this talk. So thank you for providing this opportunity to speak at PyFlames. And I'm open to any question as of now.
Thanks, Harsh, for the great talk. I think there is one question from Sujata regarding AWS credentials, unable to locate AWS credentials.
Yes. So if you go to the official documentation of Chalice, there is an added step right here. Let me just share it with every one of you. So configuring that is pretty tricky because you need an AWS account. You need to create an IAM role, and you need to be good with IAM. Sometimes people go lazy and they just assign the admin role to their user. So don't do that. So let me just put on the link here. And you need to pass on an access key and an access ID for it to work. So there will be a .aws config file on your local machine. So you have to put all these values there. You can configure that easily by installing the AWS CLI as well.
Can you install a Docker?
I guess yes.
And how about the performance?
So coming on
the AWS.
Yeah. So coming on to performance, it is highly scalable, no doubt about that. But we need to ensure that the requirements don't overburden, because Lambda has this bottleneck of like having the applications only below the size of 50 MBs. So if there is anything that is going beyond the 50 MBs, so maybe that API you will be able to test it locally, but you will not be able to deploy it in that well manner. People have created workarounds around that by using S3 buckets, but that is not a very optimized solution.
So do you think that it's a production environment friendly, or I mean, how people are using it in production environment?
So in production environment, majority of the people are using it as a function trigger to basically take a look at the metrics. This is the far that I have seen people using it right now. But in comparison to other microwave frameworks like Flask or Fast API, or even full-fledged development frameworks like Django, it still has a lot to improve and come upon. The main reason behind this is because it is using Lambda, which has a lot of bottlenecks on its service.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Any other question for Harsh? Okay. If not, then thanks again, Harsh, for the talk. Moving on to our last talk, Python and Flutter application for coloring and enhancing old photos by Utkarsh Mishra. Utkarsh?
Yes.
Yeah, over to you.
Can you all see my screen?
It's loading, yeah.
So hello, I'm Utkarsh, and I'm here to present my talk on Python and Flutter application for coloring and enhancing old photos. And in this section, we will I will generally discuss, first of all, I will discuss about deep learning and a little bit about the model architecture. In the second section, I will discuss about the API that I've used to deploy the model, and the Flutter frontend to show it. So, moving on. About me, I am a final year undergrad student at UCET Bikaner, and I have a keen interest in deep learning, machine learning, and I recently started Flutter app development. Here are the links. So, what are photos? Photos are kind of memories that remind us of those moments of happiness, smile, laughter, and many more. And seeing those photos makes us happy, laugh. Many a times, those photos feels us makes us feel connected to our surrounding, to the other people, to even our ancestries, and thus by strengthening our bonds with them. But what about black and white photos? Black and white photos appears to be timeless when compared to the color photos, and this also shows the abstractions of the reality, but they feels like empty as the eyes catches the color. It makes us feel those colors makes us feel happy, sad, and even some moods like hungry and relaxed. These colored photos also communicates mood to us, right? So there are two mostly used techniques for coloring these black and white photos. First is by hand, and the second is by using Adobe Photoshop. So the question is, why do we need machine learning for it? Because doing this by machine learning, because these by using Photoshop or by using hand, it's a very time consuming process, and you require a lot of human intervention. So coming to our first section, it's deep learning, introduction to deep learning and modern architecture. So first of all, what is a deep learning? So deep learning is kind of a subset of machine learning, and the networks in deep learning are capable of learning from data that is unstructured, and even sometimes the data is unlabeled, and they find a pattern. Find a pattern. So I would be discussing only about the three main network types, that is recurrent neural network, convolutional neural network, and operators. So the first, a recurrent neural network, they are also known as RNNs, and they are the class of neural networks that they have a previous layer, and the output of that previous layer is being fed to the next layer as an input. And these RNN models are mostly used in fields for like natural language processing fields. Like we can use them for music generation, sentiment analysis, machine translation, text summarization, and in the fields of speech, like speech recognition, speech conversion, and many more. Next is convolutional neural network. They are also known as CNNs, and these are kind of specific type neural networks, which are generally composed of two types of layers. First is a convolution layer, and second is a pooling layer. The widely used application for CNNs are in face recognition, analyzing documents, object recognition, object detection. Regarding the kernel, so in convolutional neural networks, we generally use filters. They are also called as kernels. So what is a kernel? So a kernel is kind of a small matrix that is used to apply effects on the image. As you can see in the photo given below, the kernel is used to is used to find the edges of the object in the image. So first of all, a convolution operation. So generally in the convolution operation, we have kernel or a filter that we slide it over the input image. We multiply those values, those respective values, and then sum them up to find an output. This operation is generally done to extract features from the image. So this is a code for applying convolution layer in TensorFlow in Keras with TensorFlow's backend. For the second kind of operation is a pooling operation. It is mostly followed by it is mostly after a convolution operation. It is mostly the pooling layer only, and it is the main functionality is to reduce the dimensions. Thus, when we reduce the dimensions, we have less number of parameters, and the computational cost also decreases. The time also decreases, and the main thing is that it also sometimes controls the overfitting. This is the code for just a second, sorry. These pooling layers are of two types. Firstly, that's a max pooling and an average pooling. In the max pooling, when we take a specific kind of kernel size, it finds the maximum element out of those and take that element as an output image. For the average pooling, it takes all the elements present in the kernel, it takes an average and then finds an then gets that averaged element as an output. So this is the code for applying max pooling and average pooling in Keras TensorFlow. So next is an add layer. So as the name suggests, add layer is a kind of a layer that adds up multiple inputs. Those inputs can range from lists and tuples to multiple or n-dimensional arrays to tensors. But the condition is that the input, both the inputs, both or the multiple inputs should always have the same shape. So what is an autoencoder? First of all, autoencoder is kind of an unsupervised a deep learning network. It generally learns from the data by compressing and encoding the data, and then reconstructs the data back from the encoded data. So it basically has three components: an encoder layer, a bottleneck layer, and a decoder layer. The encoder layer compresses and encodes the data. The bottleneck layer is mostly the last layer from the encoded layer, last layer of the encoded section, in which which contains completely fully encoded data, and it is in the most compressed format. Then from that encoded data, the decoder converts the decoder converts back to the tries to convert back to the original image. So this is a small code for autoencoder. Uh, Basically, the autoencoders are of 7 types, but we would be focusing on convolutional autoencoder as we have used it in the application. So now, before going to the model architecture, I would like to discuss about skip connections. So mostly these neural network models suffer from degradation problem. So what is degradation problem? When assume we are increasing the length, or assume we are adding more and more layers to a deep learning model, or the deep learning model we are increasing the depth of the network. So when we increase the depth of the network, the backpropagation creates a problem. Due to that backpropagation, we have that vanishing gradient problem. Because of that, the values are very small. Due to that thing, the model training is very less on the starting layers, that made the model perform bad on both testing and training data. This is called a degradation problem. So these convolutional autoencoders also uses these convolutional autoencoders also uses the convolution deconvolution layers. That's why they also suffer from degradation problems. So to do so we use skip connections so that these feature maps from earlier layers can be sent to encoders and decoders so that they can perform better uh, on the input image. So the model architecture kind of looks the same. It's not necessarily the same because it's the architecture of unit model, but it's kind of a same model, same kind of architecture. The encoder block contains a 3 convolution layer followed by a single max polling layer. But the starting 2 convolution layers are on the have same number of filters. Rather, the last layer have twice the number of filters. For the decoder section, a skip connection from the encoder block has been passed so that the features from the encoder section uh, remains constant. So the layers have been added and the image has been upscaled, then added, and then followed by 3 convolution to find the construct the features back. Next. And the next section is about the introduction to API using Flask and Flutter app development. So what is an API? So assume so every time like we send a message through WhatsApp, or we use Facebook, or even we check weather, we generally use an API. So API is kind of an act as a gateway between two different kinds of softwares to communicate. The frameworks for the Python frameworks in Python for developing APIs, but we would be discussing on the Flask because I use it. So this is a basic Flask API code. The app, the second line, app equals to Flask __ name. We created a Flask object which is being run in the main section, and whenever it finds a /hello as a URL, it will display a JSON-fied message. So the other functionalities apart from these coloring the image in the API are first gamma correction and super image resolution. So what is the gamma correction? So the gamma correction generally controls the brightness of the image, and by varying the amount of gamma also varies the brightness, as well as it also changes the ratio of black to white to green, all the 3 channels in the image. A small code for the gamma correction. Super image resolution. So super image resolution encompasses of a set of algorithms and techniques used to enhance, increase, and upscale the resolution of elements. Kind of a Wikipedia definition, but in layman terms, assume that we have an image and we increase its width and height, so it will definitely look blurred to us. But with the help of super image resolution, if we pass that blurred image, right, it will output us with an image which will look more clearer and will have very less or even no blurs. So next we come to a Flutter. So Flutter have basically these 4 advantages. It has beautiful UI, it is productive, it is very fast, it has faster development, and it is open source. So for the Flutter, Flutter has a built-in beautiful source, like it has material designs, cappuccinos, visits, and many other kinds of things. Native platform, native performance. We can run our app while development, like we can run the app, we can develop it, we can run it again. For the faster development, Flutter has two kinds of things: a hot reload and a hot restart. So whenever we are running our app, we have done some changes, we can hot reload it, and the changes would be shown directly into the emulator or the mobile device we are using. It's open source, so Flutter is completely open source. It has thousands of packages, and it is very high speed. It has very high speed development, and we can even contribute it. So Flutter is in Flutter. Dart is the official language we have for the Flutter. It's kind of similar to Java. And for the platform availability, the Flutter is available on nearly every kind of platform, like ranging from mobile, from Android, iOS, web applications, desktop, macOS, Linux, and even embedded system. It's a sample code. In this, we have used a material widget. This material widget is like kind of a complete app and has a title that's the name of our application. And there we have passed a home widget. It's kind of a class thing. So I created a small class. There's a scaffold like a complete a whole screen for the whole first screen for the application. And that application, I have created an app bar, and the app bar by default takes the primary colors, that's blue, and it shows an app bar with the text "Welcome to Flutter," and in the body is the whole screen. I have passed the centers, and in that center I have passed text "Hello World." So the text "Hello World" is being represented on the center of the screen. Now, most importantly, application demo. So, any questions? Thank you.
Can you not use only Dart instead of Python?
Can you please repeat? Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you not use only Dart instead of Python?
I could not have been because for creating generally for the machine learning model, because for machine learning I need a backend kind of thing, and for other I have shown I have used gamma correction and super image resolution. Those also uses the Python code only, and that currently does not have any kind of complete support uh, for completely bonding with the mobile bonding with the machine learning model, as well as applying those kinds of filters to it.
Okay, so agreed. So in that case, so use only Python instead of Dart also, right?
mobile application development with Python is a little bit tricky.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we can use Kiwi, but like Kiwi is a little bit tricky. But Flutter also has a lot, and it even the Kiwi also does not have all kind of platform, all kind of packages. Compared to Flutter, Kiwi is nearly a 1/4%, like only the 25% of the contents, and it's quite hard to develop in Kiwi rather than Flutter.
Do you have any GitHub repo link up for this so that we can just follow through it?
I have, but it's currently private.
Okay. I mean, can you make it public with removing all the things so that we can go and try it out from our end once you have a chance?
Yeah, I will do it in 1 or 2 days because like I was thinking of doing.
Sure. Take your time. Take your time at your leisure. You can just put it at on the meetup. You can remove all the your private information and just whatever the framework, the structure, we just put it.
Yeah.
People can try it.
Sure.
Thank you.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1 second. So, yeah. Okay. So, thanks, Utkarsh, for the talk. I think it was really informative, and please share the other resources like whenever it's available to you. So yeah, I think that brings the end of all the talks and sessions. So I would request everyone if they can turn on their cameras so we can just take a group picture, like so that we can post it on the social channels and it's as a memory of the event. So if we can just turn on the cameras, it would be great. Let me move the screen a bit. So okay, let me check how to make it